Uh, Yay. All right. So everyone, welcome to Cool Careers for Film. My name is Jenna Gaussman. I am a full-time career counselor at SMC. And this is, I don't know if everyone on the panel doesn't know this, but Lisa and I, this is our very last panel of the year. So we saved the best for last. I'm going to just jump right into it and kind of talk. We have some amazing panelists with us today that are going to talk about the entertainment industry, which we know many of you want to go into and want to explore. And as we all know, living in Los Angeles, it's a very competitive industry, and it's not an easy space to get into. So for the panelists, if you do have a bachelor's degree, it's not in our questions, but I'd love for you to share with our students what your undergrad degree was in, because oftentimes it's not in film, and maybe where you went to school. All right, so let's just, here we go. We're going to start with AJ. Hello, good morning, AJ.
Good morning. Good
All
being
right. So, and actually, before what I should have done this. If everyone could just quickly go around to say your name, and your title. So, AJ, your name and title.
AJ Ali, husband to Jane Ali.
Good,
Good answer.
good answer. All right, Kat.
Hi, I'm Kat McGinty, and I'm a television editor and producer.
All right, great. Adi.
My name is Adeep. I'm a television writer.
Nice. And Marla, I'm going to include you because there might be people on here not from, not in your class.
Sure. I'm Marla Leach. I'm a film teacher at SMC and a production teacher up at Laney, and I'm a documentary film producer.
All right. Vico.
Hi guys, I'm Vico. I am a television and film actress.
All right. And Anne.
I'm Anne Slack, and I'm really just a Jill of all trades, but I primarily have been working in the post-production industry for the last 22 years.
Nice. All right. And Miss Moss, can you please tell us who you are, Lisa Moss?
Sure. Let me unmute myself. I'm sorry. I'm Lisa Moss. I work in the Career Services Center with Miss Jenna Gaussman, one of the best career counselors in the world. Just a plug, a shout out to her. And I basically run the internship program. So if you guys have questions about internships later on, if there's time, I can address a few questions, but mainly we're here to hear the speakers today. But I've been in the Career Center for probably about 15 years now.
Wow.
Work with a great team. So hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. And actually, if you don't mind, can you put it into the chat, the CSC website and also your internship link? That'd be great.
Sure, I can do that.
Because this professional careers in particular, internships it goes across the board, but this industry, you can't get in, as we're about to hear, without doing internships. All right, AJ, you ready? Here we go. I feel like I'm a game show host, you guys. All right, for 500 points, AJ. Why did you choose your career path, and why did you choose your career path?
Well, I kind of grew into it when I'm 57 years old. So I've been in the game for quite a while, since about the age of 18. I first started in the Air Force, and a deep shout out to one of your parents, or maybe both. I don't know if you're an Air Force brat. All right.
Yeah, both. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I joined the Air Force, and I was in from 83 to 87. I was a public affairs person. I went through journalism training, and that's how I got my start, through print journalism. And I went on from there to tackle television projects and music and film later in life. And I see things through a journalist's eye. So I kind of gravitate towards documentary films and what I call media that has meaning beyond the fun, and the popcorn and the soda. But what can we do to create media that can change our culture, make things better? So that's how I kind of got my start and what I gravitated towards.
Nice. Yeah, so a lot of influences. I talk to my students a lot of the time about the influences that we have in life, and that we're building foundations regardless. We don't think sometimes that we're moving forward, but we're always building a foundation of skills and experiences, especially in the entertainment industry. All right. Can you describe your typical workday?
Yeah. Now is a little different than before. Let me give you the before, because in the middle of making a film, say Walking While Black, Love is the Answer, which some of you may have seen because it's been shown at Santa Monica College several times. The police chief, Johnny Adams, who's a dear friend, has shown it there. And we've had a good relationship with the school. I'm actually on the general advisory board. Typical day while making a film is after a night of hardly any sleep, wake up early before the sun comes up and start trying to figure out how you're going to get the next shot or the next interview, or if you have something that you're shooting that day. I'm a director, producer, writer, so I kind of had my hands in everything during that production, and it was just, my goodness, 100 post-it notes on the wall, calls going in and out throughout the day, dealing with 50 different things, having to juggle and do them all correctly, and then have a team around you. I had a really great team around me that one of them, in fact, had just recently gotten out of film school. And Lydia, she was editor on the film Walking While Black. And she was kind of, she was good, but she was also learning as she was going because she had never worked on a project that big. So I was teacher and mentor as well. And it was, it was just that kind of the typical day is basically 1,000 different things in 1,000 different directions. And you just got to handle them as you go and try to stay one step ahead of the pace while realizing that you got to do certain things during that day, but you've also got to deal with all these things that come at you that change. It's constantly flowing. The people that you think are going to show up for an interview, last minute they don't. Then you got to fill in with somebody else. We had one instance where we had a person who was going to be in our film, but we did some research on him and we found out that years prior, he did some things that were so bad that we just couldn't have him in the film. And it's things like that. You get curveballs thrown at you and you just got to deal with them and make decisions on the fly that can affect the total trajectory of your project. And you deal with it and you move with it and you get it done.
Yeah, it's about learning how to pivot quickly if need be, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
no, I hear you. Lisa and I have had to learn like 5 new technologies in the last 8 months. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, me too.
And she knows I'm not a technology person. So yeah, no, it is about pivoting and recognizing that things don't, but isn't that life? Life does not always go as
Yeah.
we plan, right? So what are the necessary steps? Like, what would be your recommendation, AJ, for our students to prepare themselves for this? And by the way, do you have a bachelor's degree? Did you go to 4-year, or what's your educational credentials?
No, I don't. I actually left school early because, well, I probably have, I don't know, 3 years worth of credits. But when I got out of the Air Force, I went to Sac State, Sacramento,
Awesome.
and where my daughter graduated from about 5 years ago. She's a teacher now. But I was at Sac State, and I'd also started a company for sports productions, and I was doing a lot of stuff in the world of soccer. I had played for the Air Force soccer team and started to do some promotions of soccer events. And the work that I did led to a professional league knocking on my door. I was 24 years old, and they offered me an opportunity to own a professional soccer team, and would have made me the youngest and the only Black pro sports team owner in the country. I jumped on it. I left school, and I accomplished that goal. I created this team that wound up playing in the Western Soccer Alliance. So I never went back.
And,
you know,
which is okay. And by the way, this conversation
yeah,
happens
yeah.
in my office it used to happen in my office, but it happens on Zoom every single day with my students in this industry, because it's an industry that is not absolutely requirement of a bachelor's degree, right? And
No, not at all.
so what advice would you give to our students?
Stay in school, graduate. No, seriously, because I I had to. There were so many things that I had to just work so much harder to get doors open. And if you have that degree, don't just be patient, because you've got time, right? You don't have to rush out there into the world. Get that degree. It's so important, especially now, even more so than when I left school. But get that degree, learn everything you can, make as many friends as you can. Just use that as part of your foundation, because trust me, it's going to make it a lot easier for you down the road.
Interesting. I appreciate that advice. So, because it is a conversation constantly, like, Jenna, I've got this opportunity. Should I step out? And usually, if the opportunity is such, in all honesty, students, I actually do recommend that they step out, because sometimes these opportunities, and everyone on this call will tell you this, they don't come often. Before we move to the next question, so a quick tip for our students on the call. If you are on camera, you come to the front page. So if you're comfortable or set up your background, it's much easier as a panelist and even as a professor myself to see faces versus seeing a bunch of names on a screen. So just a little tip as we move forward for the next hour. So, all right, AJ, what special knowledge skills would you recommend that the students really, and what are the educational requirements for what you do as a producer? Thank you, James.
Hey, James.
So here they come.
Special skills. It's also a superpower. Be nice.
Oh,
Just be nice to people. Just go
not
out
in
of your
their
way.
heads. Your colleagues are all not in their heads.
Yeah, it goes so far. Like I mentioned, Lydia Hall. She was so nice, and I would work with her again in a minute, right? So just be nice and do everything you can to help other people. There's so many people in the business that are just out for themselves, and they just really will step on anyone to get to where they're going. If you're a nice person and you're a go-getter, but you're also putting other people first, things are going to come to you. Opportunities are going to come out of nowhere, because people remember that kind of stuff. So that's a superpower. That's the most important thing to me.
So true.
I think everyone nodding their head, they would agree, AJ. What are the advantages and disadvantages of your job? What would you say?
Oh man. Wow. Advantages. The occasional red carpet, being able to just meet all kinds of incredible people. For me, again, from the journalist side of things, I love digging into a story and seeing how it kind of fleshes out and getting all the details and being surprised. So it's kind of things before everybody else does, kind of thing, which is kind of cool. Disadvantages, man, be prepared for like no money for years. Yeah, Deep's like, yep.
Yeah, save your allowance now.
Right. Also, just unbelievable amounts of feelings of inadequacy and am I good enough, and why doesn't anybody respond to anything that I'm doing? You'll go through that, but it's okay, because when you get through that and you get to the other side, when you complete projects and people enjoy them and they get out there, it's the most amazing feeling in the world to have people enjoying your work and getting something out of it, whether it's a laugh or a tear or a life-changing moment. And with the last few projects that I did, I actually retired from production this year. And the Walking While Black film and the companion book that I wrote with it, Love Is the Answer, those are my last two projects. But I had an amazing run over decades of just pouring in the work and seeing the results that come out of it. I'll give you here. I got this right here. One quick example. This is not film, but it's music, and this is the cover for a CD that I did where I collaborated with 11 different artists, some of them platinum winning artists. This was a CD to help breast cancer patients, and the amount of joy that came from this for the thousands of people that came to our shows. We did a cross country tour on a pink bus, and we just had so many incredible stories that I'll never forget, of lives that were completely changed because we took the time to love on people who needed it, and we did it through music, but you can also do it through television and film and really any media. It's the most incredible thing in the world to hear someone say, "You changed my life because of what you created."
Wow. And yeah, I think that's a common reason why a lot of our students go into film and television for sure. All
Yeah.
right, last question, AJ. Tell us about internship opportunities. What's your recommendation? How to, do I do internships? Do I just go get through school, and do I major in film and media, or what do I do?
I would say take every opportunity you can to be an intern. Internship is wonderful because you get to learn so much. You get inside access. And again, if you're a nice person, if you're a go-getter, if you're putting other people first, you're going to rise and shine as an intern, and some incredible opportunities come out of that. So, I say, go for it.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. And do you want to show your clip right now, or
I'd
you
love to. Yeah, it's only 2 minutes. I'd love to show it. This is
Let's do it. Hold on, I'm giving you. Actually, I just gave the whole Zoom. So we have about 50 people in this room. I just give everyone access to share their screen. So everyone else, be appropriate. All right, AJ,
yeah,
it's all
please.
yours.
Okay, cool. And just a little background. This film came out in 2017. It's been all over the country. We have police departments, sheriff's departments, colleges like Santa Monica College. We've got high schools like Santa Monica High School and New Road School that we're working with closely all over the country, using this film right now on a very important topic, which is, and I'm trying to find the link here. Here we go. To improve relations between police and community. Something that's very, very important right now. So here we go.
I'm looking at him and he's scared. He's scared of me. I see kids when they see me in uniform go out their way just to say to the top of their lungs, "I hate the police. Can't stand the police." They still love us. What happened? I heard a bullhorn and it said, "Pull over."
The first thing out of their mouth was,
"What are you doing here?"
"What are you doing here?"
"What are you doing here?" I said, "Excuse me?"
I said, "Why did you stop me?" And he said, "Because we're stopping anyone who looks like they're not from this neighborhood."
Racial profiling is so dangerous because we dehumanize each other.
Quite a bit of what we worry about today when we talk about bias has to do with perception.
People have looked at African Americans as being stronger, more violent.
So the enemy uniform became the color of somebody's skin.
I walk the streets of my own neighborhood, and I'm chased and hounded, persecuted, and guns drawn on me.
Men and women feeling the need to kill somebody because they frightened them is outrageous. You don't get to just shoot them in the back.
We asked kids what are some of the sounds of spring, and they said gunfire. When there's a lot of pain going on out there, people like that take it on themselves.
The problem is most have learned to coexist with that trauma and do it poorly.
To think that so many people in the minority communities have an added fear. And we're supposed to be the good guys. We're supposed to be the ones that make you not fear.
Right now, the fire is within the African American.
There's a problem here.
This is a battle for our identity.
Change is going to come from within.
We've got to start seeing each other as a value and as an asset. Love covers a multitude of things.
Love is the answer.
It's a possibility now for healing to actually occur.
The relief comes from relationship. I have to love you and value your life enough to make a difference.
It's about being able to put in the work, even when you don't want to.
Absent of love, we have chaos. Absent of love, we have nothing. Who are we going to become as a society?
The next doctor that would cure cancer could have their life cut short.
All right, AJ, where could we
You're-
watch that if we wanted to watch it the whole? Yeah, for sure, definitely. And I
Yeah,
hear
thank
these
you.
conversations in my office all the time as well. So where, if we wanted to watch this, where could we watch the whole?
Is that, hold on a second, is there something else playing now? Oh,
All right.
oh, there we go.
To the
Sorry
world
about
of
that.
being a professor.
Right. The next video started playing. So you can go to walkingwhileblack.com
All right.
and click on the button there.
Lisa, do you mind putting that in the chat, please? So say that again one more time.
Walkingwhileblack.com.
All right.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat. Got it.
Thank you, Lisa.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you, AJ, so much. All right.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Q&A is coming in a little bit. So Anne, are you good for going next?
I'm good.
All right, let's go. So tell us again, why did you choose your career path? And
So I think like probably every one of us that's been doing it for a while, it started one way and has ended another. When I started out, I basically from the age of 12, I knew I either wanted to be an OBGYN doctor or I wanted to tour with bands and record bands and just do live sound and things like that. And when I was a senior in high school and I didn't have good counselors. I was going to be the first one in my family to go to college. It was one of those things where I had no idea what I was supposed to do. I was applying to schools, but I didn't really know how I was doing, and I was getting rejected because I was doing applications wrong and things like that. And a friend of mine just happened to mention a school. He was like, "Hey, I know you're really into recording bands, but you should think of the Art Institute of Seattle." And so I applied there and got in, of course, not knowing at the time that like there's for-profit schools and not-for-profit schools and things like that. So it wasn't like some crazy feat that I was able to get into a school. Yeah, so I went there and it was truly everything that was right for me. Going to Seattle in the 90s was a really amazing time, especially in the music industry. And I got to work with some really amazing bands. I did eventually work with Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and Alice in Chains, and it was just a very crazy thing to reflect back on when you think of yourself as like 19 years old and 20 years old, and these are the bands that you were listening to, and then you're working with them and you're having to use a fake ID to get into the clubs because that's how you keep your contacts going so that you can get your next gig. So it was a very interesting time. It was a very interesting cool or school concept as well, because it was 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday. It was very much like a job. We actually got extra credit points if we were less than 15 minutes late for a quarter, because they were like, you need to think of this as a job. And I was actually competing against my teachers for jobs that I would apply for. So it was such a different sense of what I thought college was supposed to be. And I got my associates from there, of course, again, because of a lack of education in what college was supposed to be or can be. I didn't know like what the difference between associates and bachelors would be. And by the time I graduated, I was already working. I'd already had internships at studios. I'd had internships at video editing facilities. And now I was working for Muzak, and I was working at a recording studio as an assistant. I saw a finger go up with Muzak.
I worked in Muzak too, because I swear I know you from back in the day.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah, we gotta talk about that.
Yeah, that would be great. My boss was Taj Hanheiser. I don't know if you know her.
Yeah, Taj is like one of my mentors.
Oh my God, that's so amazing.
So yeah.
Small world, people. This is
super
how it
tiny.
works.
I was just going to say, for everyone on this Zoom call, look how small this world is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Anne was selected. I think Lisa got Anne to join us. And you know what? It's like all of a sudden Deep's texting me going, hey, I think I know Anne Slack. And so how many years ago, you two? Like 15, 20?
God, so I was at
20.
Muzak in 98. So
I was there in
96,
98,
97. Yeah.
Okay, I showed up in 99. It's like right
Okay.
after you left.
So right after I left,
Yeah,
yeah, because I
yeah.
had moved to California at that point.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, small world.
Yeah. But I was doing the music thing like just a little bit after you. So I missed
Yeah.
Everyone Cool by like a year.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't mean to take up your time, but it's fun.
No, it's fine. And it's
the connection because it's a perfect example of networking, and that everyone you're meeting, even at SMC, your professors, Professor Leach, and all, I mean, I'm thinking of Professor Keenan. I mean, I'm just thinking that I know them all by their first names, you guys. So Salvador, Josh, they're just the starting point of pitching you into your career. And don't underestimate the value of your reputation and being kind to people. Like AJ said, I'm layering that into my counseling, by the way, because it is so true. If you're kind to your professors and to people in your world, it ends up coming back to you. All of you on this call, by the way, you all might be colleagues and end up helping each other climb the ladder, so to speak. All right, Anne, ready for the next question? A typical day, advantages and disadvantages. So I'm going to combine two questions in there. So what is a typical day and what do you like and dislike about your work?
Then I got to interrupt for one quick second. Anne is being incredibly humble because she's talking about her music career, and she has a massive career in sound editing, Foley, sound production, massive. And so there's a big leap that you need to tell them, Anne.
Yeah, I mean, that was only, say, like the first 4 years of my career from college. But yeah, I moved to Los Angeles in 1998, and I wanted to pursue working on films as a sound editor. And I started out as a transfer engineer. I was really technically inclined, and so that's pretty much what helped me get into work in LA from Seattle, was that I had a very technical background. And so I was thrown into this new world of post-production, and through that job I met my ex-husband. He was the chief engineer, and we built our own business that we launched in 2000. So from 1998 to 2000 I was working. I basically was a transfer engineer by day, and at night I was donating all my time as a sound editor, working my way up, proving myself to sound supervisors that I could work on their projects. And I worked on Hercules and Xena as a sound editor, and then went into a lot of independent films for New Line Cinema. But then my ex-husband and I started our own company, and we picked a niche, which was basically where all the studios were converting everything from VHS to DVD. We were repurposing all the audio masters for that conversion. And that's how we built our company. And we built it from our guest bedroom and just the two of us, both working full-time jobs and running this sort of business and doing extra work, to then by 2006, we had taken over 2 facilities. We were in the old Warner Brothers facility in Hollywood off the Formosa lot, and I had essentially 6 dub stages. I had 23 edit bays. I had production offices. I had a screening room for 155 people, so we could do marketing screenings. We had 2 Foley stages, 2 ADR stages, and we were doing audio for every major studio. We had big TV shows at the time. We were doing Numbers, Bones, 90210. And then 2007 came when the writer's strike happened. And we lost a ton of money. We lost a ton of work, a ton of money. And in 2008, we were starting to recover, but then the directors and the actors were threatening to strike. And post-production, it generally in a good time is running 3 months behind scheduled production. But when there's impending strikes, they will either accelerate production if they can, and then get a bunch of stuff in the can. So like you'll have sort of a feast period, and then a famine is delayed. But in these particular ones, especially the writer's strike, it was first time in a long time that like showrunners weren't allowed to continue on with the writing. And so everything stopped. So going from having 22 episodes in a season to 10, everyone took hits. It was a very ugly period of time, I would say, in our industry. And in 2009, I actually had to close down the company, but it was an amazing period in my life. I had 125 employees, and I was, I learned everything trial by fire. And then since then, I've just, like I said, I've been a Jill of all trades. I have taken, I had friends that I thought wrote great scripts for, animated series, and I just contacted, composer friends of mine that worked on animated series, and then through them got connected to, say, the Frederator people, and then we started pitching these shows. I'd never done that before, but I was like, well, I researched what a pitch packet is, and and I just asked questions, and I put this together, and I didn't really get anything for myself, but for those two girls, I ended up getting them first look rights with Frederator and Nickelodeon for years. And one of them actually now is an animator at DreamWorks, and the other, she's a voiceover artist. And so it's really crazy. Like, just again, like, being nice is very important. It is the memorable thing. Like, when he was talking about that, I remember as a business owner, especially when I had producers and filmmakers that were nice and treated people with respect, those are the ones you wanted to go above and beyond for, because it was like a unique experience. It was just one of those things where it's like, wow, this rarely happens, and I'm going to value this completely. So yeah, that part was interesting. And after doing that, I also did operations, I did sales. I was brought into a lot of companies to help advance them from maybe wherever they were. Like, I worked with one company that was primarily in film developing technology, but film was going away. So I helped broaden them into new technologies and diversify what services they were offering. I've worked for a lot of companies that pretty much were going out of business. They brought me in as a last ditch to try and fix things, and usually they brought me in too late. For the last 6 years, I've been running a nonprofit organization for sound editors. We're basically we're a fraternal organization that really works to bring awareness to what sound editing does for film and television, for gaming, for special venues such as rides and amusement parks, or museum experiences. And so we create networking programs. We create events where editors can learn new technologies, can talk to different editors as well to get mentorship and advice. And then we put on an awards show every year as well, where we honor the sound editors. And so by doing that particular job, because I'm the only person there, I do everything. I do the taxes, I do the bookkeeping, I do the membership coordination, which we have 1,000 members. When I do the awards show, I'm putting on a 900-seat attended show and working with all the studios. And I essentially have 3 weeks to sell seats and sponsorships and things like that. So you kind of bounce all over the place. I've worked in production as a production coordinator and doing transportation, and like, anyone here that's worked on a small budget or an independent film knows that you're not just the production coordinator, but you're also craft services. You're also
I always have to drive the truck. I've
driven the truck.
Oh, it's so stressful.
So Anne, this is amazing information. In fact, if you wouldn't mind putting your, it's on your bio, I believe, but if you put in the chat, your nonprofit, especially for post-production and sound editing, I think that's, what a great service. And really, it's all, and students on this call, remember, it's about constantly reinventing yourself. And I think AJ's already touched on it, and we're about to hear from some other panelists as well. So kind of keeping that in mind, that it's taking, it's just kind of grabbing that opportunity. Even if you're driving a truck, you're still driving around the lot, and maybe catching, you're going to meet someone. So you never know. So, all right.
Yeah.
And any last advice on internships, as far as because I have had, actually, there's a couple of my students on this conference call, and I have looked for PA positions and internships in production. It's pretty slim right now. It's so any really fast, like in 1 minute, tell us what your
Yeah,
advice
I mean,
on internships.
internships are fantastic because for you, it is a way to get a lot of exposure and behind the scenes experience on really the details that no one talks about, and getting that experience. But for an employer, what is so great is you are seeing someone that's not getting paid to show up, that is showing up and putting in the time and the commitment. And that goes really far when you're coming to the point of, do I want to hire this person? Do I want to recommend them to someone? And that's what it's all about. You're trying to get exposure so that either you can be hired because you want to stay at that place, or you can be recommended to someone that's looking for someone that's reliable. Yeah. And as far as the bachelor's degree goes, I only just got my bachelor's degree in 2018. It took me 6 years to do it. I just kept pushing and pushing to get it done. Life definitely gets in the way of life. And I did it primarily because I had to validate my resume. I have so much experience, and especially in like an executive function, that a lot of people were like, it doesn't really match. Wow. And so I basically got a degree in business and film studies to validate the already existing experience I had. If I had it to do over again, I think I would have done it sooner than later.
Well, congratulations. The great thing, the great thing about America, you guys, is that we can get our degrees at whatever age. I mean, I know a good friend of mine. He had a client at 50 go back to medical school. And he got out at 60, but he's still practicing today and loves his work. So you just never know, it's never too late, really. All right, AJ, I'll be your academic counselor if you want to come back. I'll get you there. No, AJ's like, no, Jenna, I'm good. So
Jenna, don't tell my mom what you just said, because she'll try to make me go to medical school.
I know.
You can't tell her that.
One of the things I did want to add, though, is, again, it's that concept of just being adaptable and taking the moments as they come to you. And to really touch on what AJ, has been working on with his film, and how important it is to the conversation right now. It's been important to the conversation for so many years, but right now, so many people are trying to have that conversation. I just ran for Santa Monica City Council. I didn't win, but I did much better than I ever anticipated. I received way more votes than I was expecting. And it was, I jumped in just feet first, really not preparing for it. So I would caution that people prepare. But some of us, some of us are compelled and we act, and some of us think about things and then we act. And I'm definitely a compelled person. And a lot of it had to do with going to protests and rallies and seeing how young kids especially would scream at the police. And, I have a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old, and I was seeing how their friends were reacting with this, what was going on. And so I decided I wanted to run, because also for Santa Monica, a big issue that we had because of COVID was, as a previous business owner, I saw what the business owners were going through, and my heart was going to them, and I was like, we need to save this. And so again, it's one of those things where I think is going to be a common theme, especially when it comes to working in film studies or working in the film industry, is that you don't just stay on one track. Right. You will jump from track to track, and you just take those opportunities as they come.
Right.
And and I think it's what builds us as people and develops us
Yeah, and I tell my students all the time, you're looking at five, you're really fortunate, actually. You get a lot of variety. You're looking at five different careers. So thank you, Anne. We're going to move on to Kat. So Kat, go ahead and unmute. You're on. Can you kind of tell us how you found your career and sort of a typical day in
Sure.
like 1 to 2 minutes?
Sure. Hi, I'm Kat. I'm an editor and producer in unscripted television. And so I started because I was really interested in storytelling. I thought I was going to go into more of like a visual arts medium. But once I started studying sociology a little bit later in high school, I realized that I really wanted to tell stories within the film window of things. So I went to UC Irvine as my undergrad, and I double majored in film and media studies and sociology. Mostly because I didn't know anyone in the film industry, and my parents were a little bit understandably horrified about an industry that sounds impossible to break into as my only major. So I double majored just to kind of bolster what may happen if I couldn't break into the industry. That ended up helping me quite a bit because now telling unscripted stories, it's very helpful to have that knowledge of sociology kind of bolstering my film and media studies background. And I started interning early on in my junior year of college. I've learned how to make a lot of different types of coffee. That was answering phones and getting coffee and putting up with a lot of disgruntled executive producers was the first 3 years of my career. And stealing food from Crafty because you don't make a lot of money, if any, and that would be my dinner. So hang in there if you're interning. It does get better and easier, but it is tough in the beginning.
All right. So can you define, because here's Jenna not knowing her knowledge, unscripted television, is that reality TV then? Or what is that? Can you define that for me?
Sure. It's a broad umbrella, especially these days. So it can be reality television. It's also documentary series, which are thankfully making quite a comeback. My goal was to always be in documentaries. It's, as we all know, starting out, it's kind of like whoever's going to offer you an opportunity, you take it. So I got my first internship in award shows. So I did the Grammys and Teen Choice Award, like a lot of different, I was setting up tables, getting coffee, and I met someone while putting tables together who a year later called me and said, I remember you saying you wanted to get into post-production. I'm working on this show called Jersey Shore. We just had our first episode air. Can you come over and work with us? Not where I expected my trajectory to go. What a weird journey it was, but I learned so much. I learned my skill, which is now predominantly editing and producing. And I learned editing in school, but you really learn on the job how it's applied in a huge company with a huge show like that. And I also learned what I don't want to do narrative wise, the stories I don't want to tell. That show gave me a lot. That's not the type of story I want to be a part of going forward in my career. And like everyone else has said, I also learned how I want to be treated and how I want to treat people. But I mean, getting that job, that was someone I had casual conversations with a year before. You never know where your connections are going to come from.
So did everybody get goosebumps when Kat just says she got the Jersey Shore from setting up tables at an award show, right? Did everybody get those goosebumps? Everybody feel that? I feel that. So thank you for sharing that story. It's a great example of sometimes you're having to sit there and do the grunt work. But you meet people and you're on and I always tell students, like, you just want to be on the lot. I mean, not right now, but you want to be on the lot. You want to be on the lot. Just get yourself on the lot so you can meet people, and you never know what's going to come. All right, Kat. So any necessary steps or knowledge or skills that you would recommend looking back on your career? What would you say that, like, wow, I wish I had known that I should have really focused on taking those philosophy classes? No, I'm just kidding. But,
right.
Or whatever you might suggest. What skills and experience do you wish, looking back as a college student, that you wish you had maybe taken advantage of or worked on?
I guess I had a pretty straight and narrow path as far as my major, and it does apply to what I'm still doing. So as far as that goes, that plugged in pretty well for me. What I would say is never stop being a student. I have had to apply skills that I watched producers doing on those award shows that I wouldn't have known otherwise now that I am a producer. Pay attention to not only your job and the skills you need for your job, but what's required of the people in the roles around you. Because as other people on this panel has said, you have to wear multiple hats, especially if you start making your own films, which I just started my production company 1.5 years ago. We're all driving the trucks. Don't put for everyone who's going to be a PA soon, do not put regular gas in the cargo vans. Okay, please learn from our mistakes.
Yes, do not do that.
Yeah. Everyone knows that PA who showed up and broke the van because they put the wrong gas in. Pay attention to what's happening around you, not just when you're starting out, but at all times. Your role changes constantly. I've edited over 25 shows now. I've been editing for 10 years. There are times when I have to be more of a producer. There are times where I don't have a producer. There are times where I've had to learn how to negotiate for that because I did the job. So yeah, I mean, pay attention, always be a student, learn how to advocate for yourself without being harsh or mean, because we also don't have HR in a lot of our jobs. So there's a balance between networking for yourself, negotiating your rate, dealing with interpersonal struggles, and there's not going to be someone to step in. So it's a balancing act, but again, like being kind is really the biggest skill.
Yeah. Interesting. AJ, you set us off with the being kind, I love it.
It's true. Yeah.
It is true.
Jenna, you might have a disproportionate number of nice people on this panel, though.
True.
Because this is fucking bizarre.
Yeah, I'm sure we all have horror stories too about the people we've dealt with.
All right,
Yeah.
so Kat, another question for you. What do you love about your work? Advantages and disadvantages. What would you tell the students about being a producer? The work that you've done over the years. So,
I love that I have the freedom to choose projects now that I've been doing it for a while. I love that I'm totally freelance. So a couple times a year, I average anywhere between 2 and 6 shows a year that I'm bouncing around to, which means I'm bouncing companies as well. Which means I can also take time off for myself. It sounds kind of weird, but I am a big world traveler now because of that, because I've made time for that. And that has led to me now with my production company telling stories around the world. So before COVID, we were shooting with a former member of parliament in London. We sat down with Clarissa Ward of CNN in London. And when COVID passes, we'll be going to Mexico to film at an immigration detention center with the United Nations. So the biggest plus for me has been being able to kind of build my life in a way that I wouldn't be able to if I had a typical 9 to 5. And that has led to opportunities that have fed back into my career. The downside is that, I don't get health insurance. I have to pay out of pocket. I think financially you have to be careful. I'm about to be 34, so retirement's still quite a ways off for me. Start a retirement account as soon as you can. When I was in my early 20s, it was very clear to me, like, someday I'm going to make enough money and it'll be fine. No, invest in yourself now. Make the account separately, because this industry is wonky, as everyone's heard. It's not just about investing in yourself and your career, but it's about investing in yourself so that you can advocate without feeling the fear of, where's my next paycheck going to come from? So it's a balance.
Oh, great. That is great advice. And then last, actually, so can you tell me? Yes, exactly. Yeah, I see all the hand clapping on the money wise, and it is hard sometimes. But it is about maybe pulling as much as you can into a savings. And like Aditi said, put away your allowance. I mean, I don't think many of our students get allowance anymore, but good advice.
Look, I don't know how old people are in college anymore.
It's Aditi, not much has changed actually.
Okay.
You'd be surprised. Our students take the same GE. For everyone, all of my panelists, it is crazy. I was talking to someone yesterday. I graduated 88. Oh God, I can't believe I'm having to say that word. 1988. And our students take the same general ed that we all took. It's not much has changed, but it's all good. Their selection is much broader, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Kat, here we go. Internships. What do you recommend? What's your advice on internships?
Always say yes. Always do it. I know it's a rough time right now because there's not a lot available. the hardest thing for me when I was starting an internship, obviously you're not getting paid, you're students, there's so much you've got on your plate. If you can find time to go sit with someone 6 feet apart with a mask, please, but you get what I'm saying.
I don't mean to laugh, but yes.
Yeah, please.
It was the way you just approached that. That was pretty funny. So yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah, please, guys, be careful. But be a sponge, absorb what you can. We remember that as people in the roles that we're in, we know that what you want, and it shows us that, you know, you're ready for the role and the responsibility and you're taking the initiative. We will call you when we have something available for you.
Got it. Awesome. That is fantastic. And I want to ask Kat really quickly, and I didn't ask the rest of you this, but do you have a favorite project that you've worked on that you'd like to just share with the group? And like, what was one of your favorite projects that you just kind of hit you at your soul or, you know, at your heart?
I have one that we're mid-production on right now. I think because it came out of all of us crew members wanting to do more and merging, wanting to make a difference and being listeners and using our skill set to get a message out there. So the documentary film that we're working on is bringing to light what's going on with our current the refugee crisis that's happening in the world. And right
You
now,
can't tell us really, you guys. So you got to be secretive in this business too. You got to be very private.
what's that?
Oh, I'm just saying that. Can you tell us what the title is, or?
Oh
or-
yeah, it's a working title. We're calling it Sin Eater right now, but we already made him sign his rights to us, so it's okay. We can talk about it. But he's a lifelong photojournalist, and he's photographed every war since 1967. So we're telling it through his eyes. But I also want to say, like, because we're telling that story, I do want to also make sure, like, if you're starting out right now, make sure that when you're a part of the process of building the rooms that you're in, if someone asks you, who do you think is good for the job, make sure you're building rooms where not everyone looks like you. Make sure that if you're being willing to tell someone else's story, that you don't know their story, make sure you have enough different opinions in the room that you feel comfortable to take that responsibility on. I just wanted to make sure to get that out there.
Awesome. Thank you, Kat. I really appreciate that. All right. Thank you so much. And now we're going to Vico. Did I pronounce that correctly? Or is it
Yes.
Vico? Okay.
Hi.
All right. So now we have an actress. So tell us a little bit about why did you choose to be an actress and a little bit about your career path.
I am half Mexican, half French, actually. I was born and raised in Mexico City, and I started acting. Well, really, I joined an after-school program within my middle school. It was like a musical theater program, and I just had the most fun ever. I used to be super, super shy, and it just really broke me out of my shell, and it just taught me a lot of things about myself that I loved, and I became addicted to that feeling, and I was like, no, I need to pursue this. I need to keep learning more and more and more, and I just became really hungry for it. And that was probably, I must have been 11 at the time. And my parents were super supportive, thankfully. So they had me join an after-school conservatory while I was in middle school and going into high school. So I graduated from a formal acting conservatory by the time I was a freshman in high school. And I started, it was great because at that point I had enough preparation to feel really comfortable going into the workforce at 14. So I started going on auditions in Mexico City. I started working in a lot of short films, a lot of them for free, just student films, everything that I could get into, I did. And then eventually I started getting jobs on TV, guest stars, which are characters that are really only there for an episode or maybe two in a show. I started doing a lot of guest stars in Mexico, which eventually transitioned into doing movies. And honestly, well, I did have a manager in Mexico, but a lot of the work that I got from meeting people in film sets and them knowing my work and calling me into a different project.
And you went to the film fest, correct? So you invested also in making sure that you showed up in person, right?
Exactly. Oh yeah, 100%. I was also I'm a very big nerd. So I always knew the script better than everyone on set. Like I just knew who everyone was, all the characters, all the story. I just knew everything because a lot of the times, or I strive to know it to this day as well as I can, because a lot of times you get people who are, you know, the people in other departments like wardrobe or props that might know what the story is, just have a brief idea, but a lot of the times they don't know a lot about your character, or they don't know a lot about the scene you're filming at the moment. So you really need to be on top of everything and just know everything. Anyway, that's just to say that I study every script that I ever work on thoroughly. But yeah, so I started doing movies in Mexico. And then thanks to those, well, I started doing very well in Mexico. Thankfully, I was nominated for a few awards in Mexico, and that called the attention of managers here in LA. And eventually they fetched me from Mexico. They offered me a deal to move to LA and start working as an actress in LA. And I started working in American projects too and auditioning. And yeah, so that's how I got into it, I guess.
So Vico, so a lot of my students do want to go into acting, you know, working in just Los Angeles, now Santa Monica. Do you, can you describe to our students, there's easier paths to take, you know? As a career counselor of 20 years, I know there's easier, like I can just go do this education, I can go become a teacher, I can go become an electrician, I can go become, you know, fill in the blank. And there's literally like, I actually had a writer tell me once that, Jenna, you know, in the entertainment industry, people can do everything possible, but they still may not make it because a lot of it's opportunity meeting, with luck is opportunity meeting preparation. So what made you, Vico, to decide to like, I'm going to be an actress. This is where I want to be.
It is a rough path, and I really want to paint a very realistic picture of the fact that the day job is auditioning, and auditioning is not a paid job. So as far as you're aware of the fact that for the majority of the first years of your career, if not your whole career, you're going to need a day job at the same time, and a flexible one that lets you take time off and go on auditions that you get that day. And, you know, as long as you're aware of the fact that acting is not a full-time job for most actors, then you're okay. It's not a thing where it's like, it's a very expensive career. It's a career that almost takes more money from you in the first few years than it makes you. Even when you're working and you start working on small projects, headshots are expensive. Being on weekly classes is expensive. And it's not something that you can't do if you have, you know, a minimum wage part-time barista or restaurant job. You can do it, but you need to make a lot of sacrifices. For a lot of years in LA, I was working in a restaurant, and I was going to a weekly, very expensive acting class, and going to 2 to 3 auditions every week. And what that meant was that my whole week, I was either at the restaurant or studying for auditions or going to class. And all of my resources were going into either rent or food and acting, or nothing else. Like I wasn't going out, I wasn't buying clothes. It's just it takes a lot of sacrifices. It's not an easy job, and nothing guarantees you that you're gonna have a job, or that you're gonna do well, or that you're gonna be booking things. I mean, a lot of the fantastic actors that I went to school or just acting school with, I would see them on stage every week, and I saw that they were some of the most talented actors I've seen in my life. And a lot of them are struggling to get jobs and have been struggling for the last 10 years. And that's just, you know, it's not something that you have control over, but you really just have to be very professional and keep showing up and keep studying. So that's one thing. And it's every actor has a different path. A lot of actors decide to not study at all and just start auditioning and see what sticks. But, you know, I would recommend you to go to school. And even if you're not doing a formal 4-year education, because the thing with acting is that if you do get a bachelor's degree on acting, I feel like a lot of the times they're more expensive than the money that you're going to be able to make from it in the long term. And if you get yourself in debt as an actor, I just don't see how you pull yourself out of that in the foreseeable future. So I would recommend, you to definitely, if acting is something you have on the side, definitely stay in school for whatever you're doing while you're auditioning, while you're testing the waters in that regard. But don't invest more into it than you can afford to. And also, if you're living with your parents, or if you're able to not have to worry about money for the foreseeable future for the first few years of your career, do that. Just as long as you don't have to worry about paying rent or food. Or I lived with my parents for the first 6 years of my career, so I never had to worry about food or rent, and I was able to work in 2 to 3 projects a year and not work the rest of the year, and that was fine. But now that I'm on my own and I'm paying my own rent and I'm doing my own thing, I have to keep a job at the same time. So I would advise you, if you're still living with your parents, don't move out to be an actor. That's just not the way to go, especially if you're in LA.
So Vico, can you tell us what auditions have turned and I know this from some of my students, but can you tell the
Yeah.
class what auditions have turned into with COVID-19? And
Oh, they're all self-taped now. Well, they used to be, so self-tape is essentially when you self-tape. So you tape yourself at home. And before COVID, for me, it used to be about 50-50, where 50% of the auditions I went to the actual casting office and did in person, and 50% I would self-tape at home. But now, of course, everything is 100% through video. I did film a movie a couple of months ago, and we had to do it with all of the new COVID regulations, and that was really rough, and we all had to be very careful, and it's been rough. But yeah, so auditions right now are all self-taped, and basically what that means is that you can do it with your phone, honestly, but you need like a blank, like a solid color background that is not distracting, and you need a phone, and you need a stand for your phone, and you need a reader, which is another person that doesn't necessarily have to be a good actor, but preferably if you're reading with someone who's supposed to be, or if the character is supposed to be your boyfriend, like try to get a male voice in there, like just do a basic production in your room or wherever you can, and they send you a script for a scene or two, and you film them and you send them, and that's your audition. And that right now is a great resource because everyone's doing self-tape. So in the non-COVID world, usually when a casting office is looking to cast a character, they will receive, it depends on the project, but say they receive 1,000 submissions for one character. And out of those 1,000 submissions, they know in person maybe 15 of the actors. So out of those 15, they say, well, these 5 don't really fit the character, but these 10 would be great for it. So I'm going to call them to see them in person. And then I still probably have time slots to see another 10 people in person. So let's give these random 10 people a chance because I like their headshots or their demo reel that I see on my website. And so that's the 20 people that get called in person. And that's already a success for an actor because out of the 1,000 submissions, say only 20 go into the room. But then they also receive self-tapes for maybe 100 of those extra submissions. So that's another success because if you get to self-tape for something, that's already, you're getting a little step further and people are still going to see you. But now with COVID, it kind of became the great equalizer because everyone's doing self-tapes. So all of the self-tapes are going in at the same time. So right now it's a great time to go into these websites, like actorsaxes.com or LA Casting, and just see what's out there, see what's being filmed, and be very self-aware, know what you look like, know what your skill set is, have a headshot, have material if you have any, put together a small demo reel and start self-submitting for things because that's really how you get your foot in the door.
So I'm going to jump on that just for a minute. And I give this advice to all my students when they're interviewing. And remember, in acting, you are interviewing. It is an interview.
Yeah.
And so it's all about investing in yourself to put your best foot forward. So if you need a light ring, just figure
Yeah.
out how to buy that and invest it because you do look better. I've got my light ring here. You guys can't see it, but my husband, who Deep knows very well, Mr. Technology, totally set me up with the Logitech camera, the light ring, and it makes a difference. And you don't want to look like you're in a witness protection program. So
Right.
and then so invest in yourself, and also around clothing. I'm working with a student right now and she needs to get a new outfit. And she goes, but Jenna, it's COVID-19. I'm in my loungewear every day. I don't care, Cherish. You need to invest in a new outfit for your interviews. I
Yeah.
know. And she goes, okay, I got to go shopping. So investing in yourself is so important. It's like you put forward money to make money. So I really, really encourage all of you to think about that. Vico, last question for you, and then Adeep, you're going to take us home, and then we'll do Q&A. My students come in. Hi, Jenna. I'm an actress. I'm an actor. I would like to get an internship in acting. What is your response to that, Vico?
Well, I wouldn't say that there's such thing as an internship as an actor.
And that's what I say.
But that said, there's a ton of unpaid acting work that you can do.
Okay.
So, I mean, if I would say that's the equivalent, like if you're doing student films that maybe they can't afford to pay you, or if you're working with your friends, get as involved as possible, especially in casting, for instance. Especially right now, if you're studying with other film students, if you have students that are working on their projects and they're looking to cast a project, volunteer to be a reader for their cast, even if they don't have a character for you. Volunteer to be a reader for their auditions. Right. And until you're on the other side of the camera, I had that experience last year because I was cast as a series regular on this pilot, and they were doing chemistry reads with me and other options for different characters. So I got to be on the other side of the camera and read with the characters and see a bunch of people reading for the same role. And it gave me such a different perspective on what the casting process is like. And it helped me immensely just to know that it's not the most talented actor who gets it. It's the actor who plays the person, who's also a good actor. Yes. And you see fantastic actors not booking the roles just because, well, we already kind of have this other character that kind of looks like him, so we can't really have that. Let's go with this one instead. And it's just super interesting. So get as involved as possible in productions, especially in small, because like you were, previous panelists were talking about the smaller budget productions. If you're in an independent film with a micro budget, and you're an actor and you can afford the time to help out with other things, like in this movie that I did, it was a micro budget feature. And I became really good friends with our production coordinator. So I was helping her go to Target to get food for Crafty, for instance, which is like the food that they serve on set. Like I was doing all of these things that I was probably not supposed to be doing, but you just learn from everything. So get as involved as possible and take acting jobs as long as they look legit and not sketchy. If they don't pay, just go and do it, because material in your reel is always great.
Awesome. Vico, thank you so much. And my last piece of advice comes from one of our students who's actually at UC San Diego now, just transferred, Latifa. She's actually a STEM major, but long story short, I was chatting with her because I do get so many students. She also said, capitalize, and I and we'll get to this in Q&A. I know we're running out of time. So Adiba, I'm just going to let you run in about 1 second here. So, but really capitalize on whatever is your best feature as well. And for this student, she actually has a really high forehead. And so when she was a model, she actually had her agent and just say, this is my feature. This is what I'm great at. This is something that's unique about me. And she got booked worldwide as a model because she understood that, she probably grew up hating her high forehead, but she ended up capitalizing it as a asset for her. I have another student who has beautiful hands, and like he just needs to do his headshots now with his hands in his headshots, right? Because he has these amazing hands that are like, I've worked with hundreds of students, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, your hands are just like so unique. So figure out what your asset is and what your best feature is. Yeah, Biko's not in her head. All right, Adeep, you want to just run for 10 minutes and just go?
Yeah, I can do it. Why did I choose my career? Because it's fun, intellectual. It's like solving puzzles. I love TV. I was in the music business for a long time, which is how I was in Anne's orbit a little bit. I worked at Muzak as well. So I was what they called an audio architect. So I programmed music for like stores, background music. And that's like the best fucking job you can have. Cause like, what do you do for work? I listen to records and get drunk at lunch. Like that's what we did every day. Anne knows the party days of Muzak back in the day. So the great thing of the music about like the entertainment business is like the partying is great, especially music. TV and film, they're a little boring. Let's see. Typical day. Oh yeah, Anne, you have something to say?
I was gonna just say, and I'm sorry to take your time like this, but that was the number one thing I experienced when I first moved into film from working in the music industry was when I was just an assistant at recording studios. I was setting up mics, or I would go get the food, or I'd make sure that the games were ready in the room when the bands were taking a break. Or in some cases cleaning off blood if you have artists shooting up in the bathroom, so there's that too.
Oh yeah.
But to go from like being really where you feel medial in the scope of things, where I'm invited to every single show and I'm given all the merch, and bands are just so all about like it's a community and be a part of this and you're fun and great. And then the very first film I worked on when I moved to LA was American History X, and we worked for 2 years on that film. And they only invited 8 of us to cast and crew, and there were so many more of us that actually worked on the film, and I was like, oh yeah, well, this is a weird contrast.
Yeah, like welcome to the hierarchy of the film business. It's real. And a lot of those people got their jobs through nepotism, so fuck them. Just work harder than them. Let's see, typical work day. So I'm a TV writer, so you commute between, pre-COVID, you would commute between 15 minutes and 2 hours each way. I had a 2-hour commute each way for a year, which is not great. And so you go to the room, you talk about the traffic, you talk about what's for lunch, you do a little bit of work pitching jokes and like figuring out what the story is that you're working on. Then you have lunch, then you come back, and then you do that for a few more hours, and then you go home. Unless something horrible happens and you have to stay till midnight or 2 in the morning to rewrite a script completely from scratch. So that's sort of like the TV writer deal. And if you want to be a screenwriter, it's like roll out of bed, go to your desk, type for a while, stop, do it again, and then like take care of your kids or whatever. Like it's a much better lifestyle, but there's very little work in the film side right now. Let's see, what else, Jenna? If you're on set, and we call it covering your episodes. So if you write an episode and they want you to produce your episode, then you're covering set, and then your hours are like 8 a.m. to midnight and every day, and who knows, like if your lead actor is like being a jerk that day and decides not to come in, then it blows your whole day and you might have to come in Saturday. There's all kinds of shit. So that's the side of working on set. I actually like working on set. I was the only writer on the Goldbergs who liked being on set, which made me a strange person. So don't be the strange person in your writer's room also. Let's see.
Or maybe you should be the strange person in the writer's room.
You have to be the same strange as everyone else. That's what I learned. So like you can't be playing metal when everyone's playing jazz. Like you cannot, like that's the difference. And sometimes people are like, well, we don't want you to play the same music as us. So you get stuck kind of playing your own music, and then you leave and you find your own, your own stuff. Let's see, necessary steps. There's no like real preparation for this job, because a lot of people just fall into it because they have an uncle who like works in the business. Like that's like so many people, and it's the most competitive gig you can get. So I was telling the guys earlier, it's easier to get into Major League Baseball than it is to be a Writers Guild writer. So that's how hard it is. A lot of people, I've worked for many years to try to get in the room, and and for anyone who's older, like later in life, I was like, my bucket list was like, I want to go to film school. And so I went and I had 2 kids and they call me dad, and I fucking crushed it every day. And then within a few months, I got into the Disney program because Jenna bugged me to apply again. She's the whole reason I have like a career right now, because she sort of made me apply one more time to the Disney program, which was the 5th time it was the charm. So like, I really have nothing without Jenna. So listen to her
Constellation
and let her
Coffee,
work
right?
on your resume. What's that?
Constellation Coffee up in
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I dropped out of AFI to do the Disney program, and then the Disney program got me onto the Goldbergs, and then the Goldbergs got me my manager and agent, like from getting a credit on that. And then I'm writing on a Disney cartoon right now, and I'm developing a few things, and I'm teaching 2 classes at Sundance. So you're like, your life can change overnight if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and like everyone says, like, be nice. There's so many not nice people. Most of the people are not nice. Like, they do not give a fuck about you at all. Like, you could be getting married tomorrow and they're like, you still have to come in, you know, and do a full day. Like, they do not care because they're miserable and they put their misery on you. So look out for that. It's full of narcissists and sociopaths who are not real people. They seem to be real people. They're not. The different ways into the business as a TV writer, like nepotism is number 1. You can be a PA, which is and then like a writer's PA and a writer's assistant. These are sort of the paths, script coordinator, and then staff writer. I did a fellowship program, so that like is sort of like a booster rocket. But I was pretty ready at that point. I'd been ready for a long time, so it was just a matter of what Jenna says, like luck is, you know, when opportunity meets preparation. That's like the whole business. You can be a performer, writer, comedian type. So I worked with people like that. Unfortunately, in comedy, apparently you have to go to Harvard and work on the Lampoon to be a comedy writer in like the upper echelons, which is bullshit. And they're not any funnier than you or anyone else. They just have the fancy fucking Lampoon shit. So this is how I always talk. I talk to my students like this, my children. So I'm not like faking anything. You can do the agency trainee program, which is a great way. If you want to go anywhere in the entertainment business, do the agent trainee program at like CAA or William Morris in the mailroom. Believe it sucks and you're wearing a suit and it's weird, but like after a year, you can apply for any job, any assistant job, because that's a requirement for a lot of high-level assistant jobs, is that you have that 1-year trainee experience at CAA or something.
Yeah, no,
So,
I see the other panelists not in their heads.
yeah, I mean, I tried and they're like, you're not going to be a good assistant. And they were correct, because I'm a terrible assistant. I assisted 3 comedians, which is the worst job you can ever have. And that was like my preparation for, you know, being in the comedy business. Let's see, you can have a hit play and then you can like jump right to a writer's room. And it can be off Broadway. People don't care. They don't watch the play anyway. They just want to see Broadway in like your bio. And then you can win a contest, writing contest. You could do that. You could sell a show before you've even written on a show. You can go to film school, and then like through your connections, you can get a job. So that's like, those are the fucking 10 ways you can get in. And there's like a million others that everyone's thing is different. So if someone says you have to do this, this, and this is this, they're a liar. If you want to be a doctor, like, yes, that's like easy. It's like, and it takes less time, but like this shit is like shotgun approach and then just see what hits while spinning plates and herding cats. That's the job. And then you have to write on top of that. So anyway, preparation skills, like write, just write your ass off.
Right.
If you're a comedy person, do improv, do stand-up, do them at the places that people talk about, UCB, Groundlings. I mean, they'll all be dead within 5 years because they're all very toxic, but like jump in there, get the letters, and then jump out. You have to network all the time. If you want to be a TV writer, network all the time. Read scripts, read books, and I'm talking like novels and nonfiction, not like how to be a screenwriter books, because first of all, they're very boring and they don't do anything for like your creativity. But I do love them. So get Save the Cat, get The Writer's Journey, get The Hero with 1,000 Faces, which is Joseph Campbell, and get this book called The Power Paradox, because it's all about dealing with crazy ass like old white dudes. So like that is like the most helpful book I've ever had for my career. And let's see, watch TV all the time, but critically. So have a notebook with you when you're watching TV and go, this happened here, this happened here. So you can learn how these shows are written, take classes, always be a student, be nice, create community with your nice people. So like I run a Facebook group that has 16,000 writers on it. So like I do that on top of everything else. And it's gotten me more work than almost anything. And then work on your handwriting. This is a thing no one says. Make sure your handwriting on a whiteboard is awesome, because when you're the lowest in the writer's room, they always make you write. And I had the worst handwriting. They're like, you don't get to go on the board. And it reduced my opportunities on the job because my handwriting is so bad. So I took all of COVID to like work on my handwriting, which is now great. What else?
I think that's good, because we're running to 11:30, and that was fantastic.
Yeah.
I only caught 2 of the books, Save the Cat, I believe, and then
The Writer's Journey, which is and then Power Paradox. Yeah, you have that in there. And I can send you a list of like resources for whoever wants to be a writer, and they can sort of like jump in, and then they can also join the Facebook group if they're on Facebook. I know it's like old people shit.
Can you put your Facebook link into the chat?
Yeah, I can do that.
So the other thing is, and I know we kind of ran out of time, so I don't know if the panelists can hang tight for like maybe 5 to 7 more minutes or 10 minutes, just to answer a few questions from the students. What an amazing wealth of information, though. Absolutely fantastic. And I think from everyone's story, and Adeep said it, 5 times applying to the Disney apprenticeship. And it's about persistence. It's about continuing to move forward. And it's kind of like not taking no for an answer. And I've consistently have seen that with students, like with in healthcare for the UCLA Carrick Center program as well. It's, so definitely don't, just because you get, and I think everyone on this panel would say, you are going to be rejected.
Oh God, it's all the time. All the time. And you'll be in bed for 3 weeks after a big one. I'm serious. I am serious.
Oh, no, he's absolutely right. I interviewed for a job last year that was like what I thought would be my dream job.
Yeah.
And I was in the running for 4 months. Like I met with 10 different people. And I was told for 4 months I was the front runner, and sort of and so then I went ahead and trained someone to replace me, and I was going through all the motions, and then just call and go, you know what? We went with the last person we just met, because unfortunately I was the first person they met. And I will tell you, I even told my friends ahead of time, I go, if I don't get this one, I'm serious. Like it's gonna affect me. And I was 3 days depressed, and you know what? That's okay. It is okay to go through it. And after it was done, I was like, all right, well, new plan B.
There are shows and movies that to this day I cannot see. I was so close to getting them. I'm like, I'm not seeing it.
Oh my God, I can't watch Community because I was up for that, and I'm like, they didn't hire me. They said I was too extreme for them, which was like, what? How is that possible? Like, I'm with you. Like, it's so hard to watch stuff that you didn't get. It's almost impossible.
So Lisa, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Are there a couple questions for the panelists, or does anyone want to raise their hands? It is 30. Marla, are we okay for?
I just need to say,
okay for 10 minutes. Let's just do. Is everyone okay with 10 minutes, and then we'll call it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Jenna, I have another class, so I have to say goodbye. But thank you, panelists. This was super interesting.
Super interesting.
Great meeting you all. Great to see you, Anne. Have a great last 15 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marla.
Thank you, Marla.
Thank you.
And I will that 10 minutes. So we got 10 minutes of Q&A. So let's go.
Okay, so we'll start with the first question from Madison. She said that she has heard many times that it is challenging to direct your own films unless it's an independent film, or if you are extremely well known. What suggestions do any of you have for someone who wishes to direct their own films in Hollywood industry, but is not an A-lister like Spielberg? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Was that clear enough?
I mean, I'll throw in my 2 cents, but I would say that you just got to make sure that you are managing your expectations. You always got to think about what is it that you're creating and who's it supposed to reach? What is the platform you're trying to reach those people on? And that's going to shape what kind of content you're creating, because it's, you know, it's going to serve a certain purpose in its, you know, distribution and consumption.
AJ, do you want to take this one too as well?
Yeah, that's you know, it's true. If it's your project and you're putting the money up, or at least in control of the money, then you can make that decision whether you're going to be that person or not. If you're not, then you have no control over it, and they're going to choose who they want, and you just got to deal with it. So if you want to do that role, then you're going to have to control the flow of everything that will get you there.
I would just add really quickly. Oh, sorry.
Well, go
I would
ahead.
just add really quickly that this is the time of content creation. Like, you're able with your phone, with your friends, to create your own projects and to get experience in it and get really good at it on your own. Because having a really good demo reel of your directing work will be able to get you those Hollywood jobs in the future. So unless you're doing it yourself for many, many years and just getting really, really good, increasingly good at it, I mean, it's a big leap. But if it's a slow progression and you eventually get there, then that's how you do it.
And I'd like to piggyback off that, and maybe Kat can help me here, but like overseas, they require show reels from like everybody, right? From like the actor, the producer, the writer, the director. Like in the US, like writers don't usually have to submit a show reel for like jobs or opportunities. But lately for overseas jobs, I've had to make a reel, and I was like, oh shit, I don't know how to do that. So I learned how to edit to make a reel at the last minute to apply for a job. So there's all these things you have to like scramble to learn, and that's like just part of the business.
Kat, did you want to add anything real fast?
Yeah, he's right. I mean, adaptability and the power of a reel. I'll have 5 to 10 years or 5 to 7 years where I won't need one. And then a job comes up that I want and I need that reel like that. Just make sure you have something, a sample to show people, because it's the quickest way to show them, here's exactly what I can do.
And once again, you guys can pay an editor to help you with this. You can get a student who is in post-production or sound editing or editing. Remember, this is not about you doing this completely in a vacuum on your own. Hire those people in your sphere of influence that can help you get this done. So I want you to keep that in mind too, that it's not always about operating in a vacuum. Great question. And
in fact, to work in production, to work in this industry, you're definitely not in a vacuum. Like, you are depending on so many people. I mean, there's a reason why a credits list is as long as it is.
Exactly.
It takes that many people just to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Madison, I want to do a shout out to you for being on camera this entire call. So I really do. And you, Ting, Lauren, Joseph, and Andre. So we've got 50 people on this call, and you guys, I'm just putting it out there as your career counselor. There's only, and James, hello James, how are you doing? So, you know, there's like 6 of you that are on camera. So just come see me and I'll give you some coaching. All right, Lisa, next question.
All right, the next question is for Kat, and Joseph wants to know, he said that I want to get into unscripted TV production, more specifically reality TV. I'm curious on why you said that Jersey Shore was not the narrative you wanted to pursue. What about reality TV production is different from regular TV production?
That's a really good question. For me, that's just a personal choice. I'm more attracted to stories that have maybe more like sociological perspective and how they impact bigger groups of people. That's, for me, that's just a creative choice. As far as reality TV being different than maybe other productions, we do it very quickly. We do it cheaply. We can turn things around really, really fast. That can create some problems, and I have notes for that workflow, but it also makes us very quick to adapt and provide products pretty quickly. It also really helps us learn how to tell stories because we don't have, you know, the beauty of a writer's room. So we kind of have to write in post and work with what we have, not what we'd like to have. It comes with its own unique challenges, but I think it also brings a different skill set once you learn how to adapt in that world.
I mean, the story producers make the show. They make the stories happen.
Well, and the editors.
Right. And the editors. Well, I loved editors. So I was on a reality show and I would always go, hey guys, can you just not put that in? Because like I was nice to the editors every day on the mic and I never met them, but I was like, hey, can you cut that?
Oh yeah, we hear you. We hear it. All yeah.
And you do it because you like nice people.
Okay, great. And then I had one other question. Well, a couple other ones. I don't know how much time we have left, but someone wants to know, how do you deal with being shy in the industry? I think Victoria touched on that a little bit, but if you elaborate on that a little bit more.
Of course, fake it till you make it. Even if you don't feel comfortable, even if you have what is that called? Imposter syndrome, where you feel like you're not prepared enough or you're not talented enough or whatever's going through your head, that it's mostly lies, but also a little bit of a reality check with yourself. Just fake it. Just be a good person. We were talking about that earlier. Just be as kind as possible, be on time. And if an opportunity presents itself to you and it's appropriate for you to approach it, like I'm not saying, you know, if you find an actor eating in a restaurant, go and ask them for an opportunity, like maybe, you know, try to tell the difference between an opportunity that is appropriate to pursue and one that's not. And if that's the case, just count to three and do it, because you're not going to stop being shy just by deciding you don't want to be shy anymore. You just kind of have to fake it. And once you've been faking it for a long time, you realize that you kind of already are not that shy and that nothing bad happened and that it was fine. And that's just how you do it. But just try to picture a celebrity that you admire or just somebody in your life that you think is a powerhouse and just embody them and just walk into these rooms thinking that you know what you're doing and you'll be fine.
I wanted to piggyback off that because I was very shy until college and I was like, I'm never gonna have friends or like work if I'm shy. So I just decided I'm not gonna be that person anymore. And I just like took on a persona that was like sort of more outgoing and I just like became that person. And so the shyness is sort of always there, but you sort of counteract it with like, you know, connection. You connect to people and then it makes you less anxious and less shy because you're like, oh, we have a mutual thing we can talk about, and that takes all the anxiety out.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on that too. So back in the day, and I'm talking way back, I did a couple things with Big Daddy Kane, and he was backstage and really kind of almost asleep, like getting ready for his turn on the show. And when he went on stage, he exploded. And he was not really all that outgoing, except for when he was on stage. And so it's not that serious. None of this is that serious. Just be yourself. Just don't be, you know, afraid to get in the room. And if you mess up or, you know, people think you're crazy or whatever, so what? At least you made an impression, right? Just keep it moving and just enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey. So.
All right, Lisa, how about, thanks you guys, that was great advice. And I don't know about AJ, you and I are peers, actually. I'm right there with you around age. And, you know, the older I get over that 50 mark, man, you're just like, whatever, you know, let me just ask for that upgrade at the hotel. Why not? Let's just
why not? Fucking ask. You're not going to get something that you didn't ask for.
That's right.
And that's this business. Like you can be afraid to ask people for help. And I did that forever. Yep. And it's a lot harder that way. So just get used to asking. If you're terrible at it, start small. Like say, hey, I was curious, like what's a good book? Like if you have a contact, what's a good book I should read that'll help me with structure? And then you start to like sort of build them up. And as you build your relationship, you can be like, hey, do you know a good manager I could talk to, or do you know, that kind of thing. But practice asking because it's a really important skill.
Yeah, Yeah. And just, yeah, exactly. Even practice like, well, we do patios, right? So, like I'm going out tonight with a friend. If we get a bad table, just ask. I don't want to be next to the kitchen. I want another table. And by the way, the sooner you learn to do this in your 20s, the better. So feel free to ask. Lisa, last question. Do you have a good one? What's our
Okay. Let's see. Well, I had two other ones that I wanted to ask, but
no, go if it, yeah.
well, Tiffany wants to know, she says she's applied to CAA for internships, but keep getting rejected. So does anyone know their process for looking at applications? And do they make room for individuals who know someone who works there already and choose them over other interns?
An intern at CAA, is that that's the gig?
That's the gig.
Yeah, she wants to know why she's getting rejected, and she wants to know if CAA is selecting interns who perhaps know someone who's already working there.
I mean, definitely at the agencies like that, yeah, a lot of it is going to be a nepotism or a referral situation. And I would just broaden your scope. I mean, don't just go to CAA, go to a smaller one where you're coming in on the ground floor, like maybe actually work with a casting director as opposed to a talent agency, and get exposed to contacts that way, which then you're going to meet people who can refer you to, you know, CAA or WME or any of the other ones.
And you could try to intern at like one of the boutique agencies. So you'll learn the same things, but they'll probably be nicer to you and you might actually get to do more. And then you can sort of like, you can cut your teeth there. And so don't just like focus. It's like applying to Harvard and having no backups. Like it's this,
yeah,
it's like.
And I learned from just having my kids as background actors for years and then looking for agents for them. You know, it's one of those things where it's so niche market these days too. I mean, there's agencies that are like, we only are going to work on, you know, green type of projects, you know, so they're like specialized in things that have to do with environmental. Like, I think we're at a point now where as a person, you can allow those things that you have as your core beliefs to also play into what your job pursuits are going to be. But it's just, there are so many agencies, and it really depends on what are you trying to accomplish with an agency internship? What are you trying to learn? And that's going to help direct which one you should go to.
Right. Like I wanted to be a writer and I thought I should go work in development and learn the development process. So I was an intern for the people who made like the Halloween movies, and I loved horror. So I would like read scripts for them, and I learned so much. And like, they're not like a humongous name. They really only make one kind of movie, but you sort of see like how branding works. You see what like a mandate is for that company. And so you're always going to learn at these places, and you just pop in 3 months and then you pop over to the next thing, you know?
And it is Friday the 13th today, everyone. So we're looking for something to do tonight. Pull out the archives.
I got my weird bat.
Yeah, nice. So Lisa, you want to do the last question, and then we'll wrap it up. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, panelists, for hanging tight. We kind of went a little bit over. My apologies. All right.
Okay.
Last question.
Sure. This is from Emily. She wants, she said she's directing this to the directors on the panel. Do you have any advice or recommendations for student filmmakers trying to work on their own student films? Any recommendations?
Just do the work every day. Just shoot, edit, just do the work every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And AJ, can I piggyback on that? Do you recommend a YouTube channel, an IG channel, just to kind of start to get used to putting your work up for the public? Or what are your thoughts on that now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The sooner the better. Yeah, no matter how rough it is or how bad you think it is, just get it out there, and yeah, absolutely. And accept the criticism, welcome it. Welcome it. It'll help you grow.
Yeah, there's
also,
nothing. Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, imposter syndrome is real.
It is real.
It's really easy. I'm just finished directing my first piece. It is so easy to talk yourself out of why you shouldn't be doing it, or why you know, do it. If you're willing to do the work, then you have enough. Don't let the imposter syndrome stop you from accomplishing that goal.
That's so true. That film behind me, the only reason why I directed it is because my director quit because he was scared of the topic of police brutality and systemic racism. And it was either step in and direct it or maybe never ever see it get done.
Right.
And it's changing lives all over the country now. So take a risk.
Yeah, I mean, that even applies to like me just running for city council recently, where I can't tell you how many times in a day I would say, well, I'm going against 4 incumbents and I only have $800 to spend on my campaign and they're spending $25,000. Like, what am I even doing here? And all that I know is that I finished it. And honestly, in the year of 2020, I needed that more than anything. I needed to tackle something that was something that I only thought about or thought, oh, I'll help someone else do it. And I finally decided, no, I'm going to help myself do it. And so I did it. And I wrote it all the way through. I mean, there was a point where literally a week before the votes happened, I almost backed out just to endorse some other people. And when all was said and done, I ended up with 1,800 people who voted for me, and I don't know those people. And what an amazing feeling it was. Like, I now understand why people, you know, kind of go into this civic office, you know, and run for office, because it is amazing to think people trust in you to help fix problems.
And it's really about owning who we are and knowing your why and what your story is, and that we all bring something different to the table. We all have an experience. Those of you that have been in my office, you know that's what we talk about. Every single individual on this call has a story and a different experience. Adeep, do you want to take us home? Last advice on that directing, and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, directing, I mean, I put it in the chat, but like directing is all about directing. So like shoot every day, shoot other people's stuff, shoot your stuff, shoot actors' reels, you know, do all those things, because then you're going to learn like, okay, framing and lighting, you're going to learn all these things, and working with actors is really, really important. They're not just marionettes that you know, a lot of people treat actors poorly, writers especially. And I'm always like, they are part of the process. They are our partner in creating this. So like, why would you minimize someone else in that position? So like, learn to work with actors, respect actors, love actors. I think that's really important for directors.
Oh, thank you. All right. So to make an appointment, Lisa, did we put the Career Services Center website in our chat?
You can go ahead and type it in really quickly.
I just typed it in. So there's the phone number to make an appointment with a career counselor. We have 10 career counselors at SMC. Utilize us. In the private sector, we charge $150 to $200 an hour. So you guys have access to us for free. And we can go over resume, cover letter, portfolios. And also one of the panelists brought up a great point about classes. SMC has creative writing. Like I think Adeep was talking about reading. We have a class in philosophy called Witchcraft, Religion, and Mythology. What great content to be a writer, to be an actress, or to, you know what I mean, to be a producer. So you know, dive into our not so common classes and just kind of hone and build that foundation of your skills. All right, everyone, we're going to let you go. Happy Friday. Panelists, we cannot thank you enough for your extra time today. We are so appreciative, and I do know, having worked here for 20 years, as Lisa does, that you have changed the trajectory of many people's lives today. So we thank you for that. All right, so feel free to jump. Lisa and I will stay on for a few minutes if any of the students have questions. So, but you guys have a great Friday.
Thank you. Good luck, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck.
Nice meeting you guys.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you too.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Ciao.
Does anyone have a question for Lisa and I?
Hi, yes, I do. So to make an appointment with you, we just call that number, or we can also.
So you just call the number. We have a message right now, and Carolina Trejo will get back to you and get you on our calendar. So, yeah.
And Madison, I couldn't ask all of your questions. Sorry.
Oh,
about
right.
I was trying to get them all in, but we were running out of time.
That's okay. And also, just one more question: is there any way to reach the panelists, or?
It was in their emails. They were very generous. They gave us their emails. It's in that bio. So you should, before I stop the recording, you should download their bios.
Okay, thank you. Is
And
that
remember, those of you that have stayed on, which tells me that you're engaged. Also, all of them probably are on LinkedIn. So if you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn and connect with them as well. So.
I found a couple of them on Instagram.
Perfect. And if they're on Instagram, follow them on Instagram. I don't know. Yeah, no, Andre, I really appreciate that. And so like I kept saying, and I will stop pounding this. Lisa and I are actually going to be putting together a workshop, the CSC, about how you have a Zoom presence. And I don't know if that one student put it out to everyone and said, well, during class, I'm told not to be on camera. When you've got panelists, the three of you on camera right now, it's hard to explain, but literally Lisa and I can see the panelists and then we saw you.
Right.
So we did not see any of the other 50 students. Only if you're on camera are you on our screen. So all the panelists were looking at your names, by the way. They saw Madison, they saw Andre, they saw James. So I just can't, Lisa, right? And Lisa,
yeah, they can put a name to the
there's a personal reason why Lisa's not on camera, but it's we won't go into that. But it's like, come on, you guys, you're in entertainment. Sorry, I'm preaching to the choir here.
No. And then they look so wonderful and professional too. I mean, you know, Madison looks beautiful. You guys look like you fit right into the industry. And so this is important to them.
Yeah.
And Jenna had mentioned it earlier, and some of them turned their cameras on and then off, but you guys stayed on the whole time.
You guys stayed on the whole time.
It's a lot. It's like you're engaged, you want this, you're interested. Yeah. So it speaks volumes. So when you hear, like, if you're in like a workshop or something and you hear like someone say something like, oh, turn your cameras on, or
turn it on.
Do it, because they're watching all that too, to see if you can follow instructions. All of this is so critical to getting yourself in the industry and moving forward in your career. So kudos.
Thanks, Lisa. All right, any other questions for anyone? So I personally am booked almost all the way through November, because does anyone know what season it is? It's UC essay season, it's UC application. So I have a lot of students that I'm just slammed with their essays and doing edits and things like that. But we have 9 other career counselors that are amazing, that are available as well. So yeah.
Cool.
All right, any other questions?
I think Madison asked it, so.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Andre.
Thanks.
Have a good weekend.
All right, thank you guys.
All right. Bye, Madison.
Bye.
Bye, James. I'll see you soon. Whew, hold on. All right, Lisa Moss.
Good job, Jenna. Are you recording? Are you still recording?
Yes, let me stop. Thank you.